Hi guys, and welcome back to part 2 of my McLaren upgrade experience video. And in this part we're going to be talking about the fun part, which is the actual upgrades that were done and how I think they affect the car, both from a positive and negative standpoint. So I think we'll start at the bottom, which is suspension. So as I explained in my previous video, I had KW springs fitted. It's a completely adjustable lowering kit, which basically fits over the existing dampers and then acts like a coilover. So coming down here, I think you should be able to just see in the background in there, which is the signature KW yellow springs, and there are sort of like a couple of funky purple collars top and bottom, which are screwed onto the shocks and allow the ride height of the vehicle to be adjusted. So as you can see here now, the wheels are pretty much flush with the rear arches ride height wise, and similarly up front. So improves the look of the car, and it does definitely change the handling. Along with the lowering springs, I had a full geo done, and the car definitely does feel more planted driving through twisties. It generally just feels slightly more rigid. I think the springs are a slightly different rate to the GT springs, which is what was on my car, obviously being a 570 GT. I think they're more akin to the 570S. It's not a night and day difference, it's quite subtle on your backside. The car's still very compliant when set in standard suspension mode and very comfortable to drive, and has a similar change in stiffness as previous when you change your suspension mode. So generally the suspension is an improvement. The car definitely handles better. It just feels more planted and less floaty, I suppose is the way I would describe it. And yeah, it's just a little bit more rigid, rolls less when it goes through corners at high speed. So really impressed with the results of that suspension modification. It's just unfortunate that obviously I didn't get my spacers either. I am going to have a bit of a play with some other companies' spacers to see maybe if I can fit, say, around about a 10mm spacer on, and make that work without suffering from arch rub, because the ones that the company tried to fit for me were 13mm ones. So maybe if I go somewhere in the middle there, I'll get the improvement of optics, but without the downside of arch rub, which was the main issue when I had to return the car. So the second part that we had done was Larini Sports Cats. 200 cell cats. It's the stainless steel system. They do two different ones. They do a stainless steel one and they do an Iconel one. The Iconel one's about £6,000, and I didn't want to pay for that. The stainless steel one is about £3,500, and was one of the best value aftermarket cat systems for this car from a reputable, well-known exhaust manufacturer. I've already posted a video. If you want to watch that and listen to that, it's about a 4-minute video of driving. I try and run the car right through the rev range. With the Sports Cats fitted, the car is significantly louder than stock. I wouldn't say that the note has changed that much, and if I'm really honest, I would say that they're still not the best sounding cars. The more natural sound of my Lotus, which is a supercharged car, still sounds more organic to me. You can hear turbo whine coming through the exhaust system now, which is quite cool. You can hear the impellers whirring away, which is quite nice. It is proper loud on cold start, so if you used to upset your neighbours with cold start with the stock exhaust system, then you're going to drive them crazy with the Larini system in place. I am thinking about getting a different rear exhaust on the car. My favourite at the moment, I think, is the Akrapovic, but we'll wait and see. The car currently has the OEM sports system on it, and I'm of two minds at the moment, so I'm still currently thinking that one through. But yeah, Larini definitely a lot louder, more aggressive than the stock system, so sonics wise there's a big improvement. And finally, the map. So the map is good. It definitely changes this car quite notably. The map was a stage 2 map, and that was allowed because of the fact that we'd changed the cats. And essentially the car was tested around 25 degrees, so not the coolest of conditions, and as with most turbo cars, they are affected by heat soak, but the car achieved essentially an extra 100 horsepower. So from what I could see from the comparisons, the sports cats on their own gave the car about an extra 20 to 30 horsepower, and then the map was what gave it everything else, so the extra 70-80 horsepower on top of that. So the car, yeah, was making about 650 to 660 horsepower on the dyno, but the big increase is the drivability of it because of the difference in torque. So you literally get over an extra 100 newton meters of torque at about 4,000 RPM. And for me, if you look at dynos objectively, I never think you should look at total power output at sort of like 7,500 8,000 RPM, because that is not usable power. You should look at torque and power delivery in the mid-range, which is what you're going to be using the most of the time with your car for road driving and occasional track use. And in that aspect, it is quite a marked improvement in acceleration and pull. You really notice that torque. It kicks in lower. It's more aggressive. The build-up is still lovely and smooth. So if you're driving the car like Miss Daisy around in standard mode, then it still runs lovely and smoothly. But when you challenge the car and you put your foot down, there's just a lot more there. What you'd also notice is that power curve continues on. Previously I found the car kind of waned off a bit over sort of like 6,000 RPM, but now that power just seems to continue, and there's more and more most of the way through the rev range to the red line. So yeah, the map is a good and very worthwhile improvement. Out of all the components that are added, obviously the map only cost about £1,000, the total bill being about £8,000. So as a performance improvement, and if you just wanted a stage 1 map on the car, which should give you about an extra 70 horsepower and a similar amount of torque, I'd probably just do that. It would be a very good value for money upgrade. No problems with the car since I finally got it back. I've driven it probably about 300 miles, and yeah, it's been running smoothly, touch wood. No issues at all in any of the functionality of the vehicle whatsoever at all. So despite a really rather substandard upgrade experience with regards to customer service, time delays and communication, the work on the car is good. What do I have planned next? Well, I've got some new air filters coming. The upgrade company did offer to fit K&N filters for me, but I declined those because they're oil coated, and I've done some reading, and you can get oil transmission through the turbos with those. So I've got some dry media filters coming from Alias 23, which read up to be the best option for this vehicle. I'll be fitting those myself. and I'm also going to try out some of Imran Alias's spacers to see if I can push the wheels out a little bit without incurring that arch rub. So overall, really happy with the upgrades to the car. It was just sullied to a certain extent by the actual process involved with getting it done. So any questions, comment below, guys, and I'll catch you again soon for the next video.